Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
Dean Webb, the executive director of Faith Farm Ministries, is here, and he's here once a month to inspire people, not only people who are addicted to things like, drugs or other kinds of problems. Everyone seems, not everyone, but it's taken over not only our country, but worldwide. And but he is very much of a inspiration in many other ways, because he's the guy that says, don't tell me you can't do it. You can do it. Just put one foot in front of the other, and we'll help you do it. Yeah. So, Dean, thanks for coming in as usual.
Thanks for having me, Anita. Appreciate it.
Well, you do inspire people, and I know that you inspire those who come to Faith Farm Ministries. It's not easy. They come, and they're scared, and they're, of course, people who've been listening know what Faith Farm Ministries is, but now we have a whole different thing when, of course, the gentleman who started Faith Farms so many years ago, 60-some-odd years, it was alcohol.
Yeah.
And do you think that, in your opinion, because you were there when it was a lot of alcohol, do you talk to these people differently?
Not really. Addiction's addiction. I mean, the first 20 years of Faith Farm, it was all alcohol. And the next 20 to 25 years, you threw in the street drugs and heroin and cocaine and all that. And that's when we had the second farm in Palm Beach. And then when we got the 1,500-acre farm up in Okeechobee, that's when prescriptive medicine addiction came in. So we're dealing with all those. We're dealing with prescription medicine, drugs, and alcohol.
The reason I say that is because I heard a show the other day, and they were talking about how a lot of these places that are taking care of these men and women who go to be restored or to get off the medication, it's kind of a joke. And they were talking about how people, I forget what the name was, when you go to one of these places, sometimes they throw a mattress to you and they just say, okay, stay here and we're going to get you off of it. It's nothing like what you do, or there's no comfort. And I heard some of the addicted people, and these were younger people, talking about it, and they were kind of laughing about it. So I didn't see this as the serious type of addiction that now I must be wrong, but I don't know.
Well, you're talking about the people dealing with it were not serious.
Yes. The people dealing with it were not like
today
you.
I talked to, or yesterday I spoke at Boynton to an incoming class, a guy who was drafted for the Boston Bruins on hockey. He got in trouble, he got an 8-year sentence for a crime he committed, and he came into our program, and I said, have you ever been in a recovery program? Oh, yeah. My dad's got money. I was in a $3,000 a day program last month. I said, you got to be kidding. He said, yeah, but if it's not faith-based and you don't deal with the internal issues, he said, all you're doing is abstinence. He said, and I talked to another girl who was there yesterday, and when I spoke, and she had come down from New Jersey to, I think it was Port St. Lucie or Jupiter, somewhere there. And she had a heroin addiction really bad. And the guy a guy down the street whose name happened to be Dean, of all things. Isn't that funny? Came up to her and with a slip of paper, and he says, I've been watching you every day since you've been down here visiting your dad. He says, let me just tell you something. You need to call this place.
And it was
this place saves.
You're kidding.
No, he said, this place saved my life 10 years ago.
I got goosebumps.
It's called Faith Farm. And she came and checked herself in the program.
I have goosebumps on this one.
I said,
find out who he is and go and get him.
I've got his number. His name's Dean. I got his number.
Guy.
I absolutely keep trying to call him, but his line's busy or drops calls. I've been trying him for 2 days. Because she asked me yesterday, have you gotten a hold of Dean yet, Dean? And I said, not yet. Ding, ding, ding. But anyway, I said, I'm going to try. I want to talk to him because I don't know how many of these people are scattered all over the country who have had their life changed. And when the occasion rises, they tell them about Faith Farm.
Well, I think the worst thing is that probably the government is paying these people to help these people. But it's one thing, I'm sure, and I'm just going to backtrack. I don't know what that $3,000 a month place looked like. And I'm sure it was nicer, but this was more like a flop house. Mm-hmm. I got the feeling it was a flop house where they just, okay, here's another guy. That's your room. And he said it was like a closet, and it was so despicable. Yeah, and I'm wondering how they're getting funded then when they don't even have a decent place. Forget about what they're even doing. I guess what's happened, it's running rampant, isn't it?
I know. I went to a meeting, 3.5-hour meeting, and it was in a college up here, up on Congress, and the room was full of people in the addiction recovery ministries and business, and it was headed up by the major guest. I can't remember his name, but he was the Senate. He was the senator in the Florida House Senate that is responsible for. He's head of the appropriations. And he was there to try and figure out where to funnel the government money that, Trump says he's going to spend $45 billion or whatever. Well, every state's going to get some sort of money. And so he was trying to figure out, he wanted boots on the ground. How do we deal with that? So they talked about all sorts of issues and medical and everything. And I sat there till I couldn't stand it anymore. And I stepped up to the mic and I said, I'm going to discuss the big elephant in the room here. I said, we've talked about health care. We've talked about insurance. We've talked about the government throwing money at the problem. We've talked about medical. Nobody's talked about the spiritual man, and that we're a complete person. And I said, nobody's talked about dealing with those issues that are those issues of hurt that these people are carrying inside that make them not be able to let go of their drugs, and that they're trying to medicate to forget things that happened in their life. And I said, we draw from all 50 states and about 8 foreign countries, and we have 17 judges that sentence people to Faith Farm. And the reason is because we get results. We do have abstinence. We have zero tolerance policy. If they use, they're kicked out of the program. But they have education, GED, college. They sit for college credits before they graduate. But the whole time they're here, it's a spiritual emphasis. And by that, I mean, we deal with internal issues of hurt, where they have aught against their parents, or they didn't get a job promotion, they hate a boss, or like the guy I told you about on a previous program who was being sexually abused by his older brother, and when he made him stop, then he killed the mom in retaliation. And so he'd been drugging out for 28 years to forget that picture of his dismembered mom on that couch, and knowing his brother got even with him. So he dealt with forgiveness, and the guy's fine. He graduated, and the gal that would never marry him came up and walked the aisle and took his picture at graduation and married him. She actually had their son in tow. She just refused to marry him because of his addiction. So we deal with the deep inside issues of hurt from a spiritual perspective, and have them ask God to forgive them of that, where they, they're holding something against somebody, and it only doesn't hurt that person. The person doesn't know. His brother in prison didn't even know he was fat, dumb, and happy. He knew nothing. This guy was killing himself with drugs, trying to forget what happened.
Okay, but now I'm glad you brought this up, because now I'm going to go to a different way of this. Let's say, because I do know I have a friend who's had a couple of sons who, they were in business, they seemed to be fine, and they had some accident or something, and they got on medication. So they didn't carry these things, at least it wasn't obvious they carried that with them, because they were a very successful person. But the medication is what got them in trouble.
Yeah.
Why? I'm really, very dumb about this. Why does that not, when you get those people into a place that they can get rid of it, why do they have to have more? I mean, why do they
more
have
medication, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Why can't, so they get off of it, they've been good people, why doesn't it just work?
I don't know. Different things work for different people. That's all I know. I know that the people that come to us, and if they stay through to graduation, they get it. But it's a slow, loving, daily, nurturing process to get them to the point where they can get on their knees and ask God to forgive them of those feelings they have against people, or even, sometimes they have to forgive the doctor that got them addicted, for God's sake.
I was just going to say,
because these doctors have no idea what they're doing when they write these scripts. It's horrible, and we haven't
really talked about that in this whole field, have we? No,
I don't like to.
Well, no,
I like to talk about the positive side,
no.
but the negative side of that, and I don't like to blast them. But doctors really aren't. They're really
following
not,
up.
Well, they're not really well versed in the seriousness of the scripts they're writing.
Okay, but wait a minute. Now it's out there. People know. So let's say they have to. In fact, it's even harder to get these kinds of drugs anymore, right? If you
Right.
need it. Okay. So a doctor has John Doe, and he's, he broke his arm. He's in pain. He hit his head. All right. Now he has a certain amount he has. Why do they then not just make it less and less and less and say, no, we're not giving you more drugs? What are they being paid by the drug companies? Why? I'm trying to get on this. Let's say it's a good doctor.
Okay.
What is this?
I'm going to give the doctors the benefit of the
let's
doubt.
give them the
Okay,
benefit
let's
of the
assume
doubt.
that they're
Yeah.
all good guys.
Okay.
They took a Hippocratic oath when they became a doctor to try and make people's burdens lighter, whether it's operative or treatment or pain medication or whatever. And I believe that they genuinely want to help. I just don't think that they understand the addictive nature of what they're prescribing. Some of the stuff is really, OxyContin is worse than heroin.
So you think there's another kind of a drug that they could give that wouldn't have the same results? Is that what you're thinking?
I
it's not as
don't know
powerful?
about that. I don't know about that. I do know that when people get on and start getting addicted, they tell the doctors incredible stories about pain. I've got to have another prescription. I just got to, and I think some people play the doctors. I'm not saying everybody does that. I'm just saying I think some people play the doctors, and the doctors, they tell them a good story. The doctor doesn't want them to be in pain, and they write another prescription, and they don't realize how addictive this stuff is. I don't think. I just don't think they realize.
So I don't know if in all these meetings you have, has that ever come up? I mean, do doctors come there too as part of it, and they should be a part of this? Don't you think?
Most of them are lawyers.
The lawyers, no, but doctors should come.
I know.
Don't they? I mean, if we're going to really make this work for the whole country, which seems, in the world, it seems like this is a major issue. It's like, when polio came there, they found someone who had a serum and they got rid of polio. Well, they're going to have some sort of a serum for this.
Yeah, they were at the auditorium the other morning. It was packed with people like us in the addiction recovery business. And there were attorneys that handle stuff and try and get guys out of jail sentences and into our program. There were medical people. One guy told the story of he had one person was called to their house 4 times for Narcan to revive him in one day. And they said, well, what's the youngest person you've had to revive with Narcan? And he says, an 11-month-old baby. Was addicted from the mom. The mom had stuff around the house, and this baby got in and was about to die. And they put Narcan in this kid, the 11-month-old baby, to revive it.
And isn't that true that some of the EMT people come, and if they get too close to it, they're also having a problem? Is that the same stuff?
Yeah, they absolutely. They say the biggest threat in terms of our country, in terms of addiction, is people's medicine cabinets. They keep drugs around that they, like, for example, when I go to the dentist, he always gives me a pain med, and I go ahead and fill the script.
I do too, and I never take it.
I never take it.
I agree with that. Same for me.
Not because I have this great intolerance to pain, but I don't want the risk of getting addicted. I live with that all the time, and I see it. It's horrible. So I don't want that to happen to me. And I don't think I've got addictive person, but I sure don't want to find out physically if I'm sensitive to that. So I usually hardly ever take I have to throw stuff out. But the sad thing is I don't have little kids in my house, But if they climbed up and got in the medicine cabinet, we could have some serious problems. And that's a lot of the problems that people have with really young kids and teenagers. They get stuff out of their parents' medicine cabinets.
So we should really now have a lockup closet like they do for guns.
Yeah, you should keep that away.
It's pretty serious.
And some people, as we've talked before, some people are very susceptible to addiction, and some people aren't. And there's all in between. But if you're really susceptible to getting addicted quick, and you take several of these pills over and over 2 or 3 days, you can get to where your craving is. By God, you got to have another one. And
so there was a packed house. And what happened after you made your speech? That would be interesting. Of course, you're a tough guy, so you wouldn't.
Well, I was swarmed with people, attorneys and stuff. Afterwards, says, "Let me have your card because I need some place to send people, and not everybody has insurance, and not everybody's parents are wealthy, not everybody has backup money, and your place is free." He said, "That's a great price. I can refer anybody to free."
Well, and there probably are people kids and all, who have religion. They just haven't used it.
Yeah.
It's there, but they haven't really asked for help that way. They just, right? That's
Right.
probably what's happened. So you could get a lot of very good people who just need a little tweaking.
Yeah, that's true. And like Sunday, we baptized 2 young Jewish men that were just that they just felt like they had obtained a deeper walk with the Lord, with God.
Was this
in our
at a
program.
graduation?
Uh-huh.
No kidding. That's a one for me.
And so there are a lot of people, everybody comes from all different backgrounds, and have all this stuff. But, like we had a young Catholic girl, and of course we're Protestant based, but she said, the amazing thing about this is this is the first time I realized that I could kneel and pray directly to God. I always went through the priest or the bishop or went to confess. She said, I never knew that from Scripture that I could go directly to God. And so, people come from their little tweaks. People come from all sorts of different backgrounds. And of course, everybody thinks they're right, and we're no exception. We think we're right, too. But we just believe that you can develop a personal relationship and prayer to God, and that's what we emphasize.
And yet there have been people, haven't there been, who have all that, but then they still just can't get off of it.
Right, yes.
And what about that? What about that?
I always say, God has open arms and he's always willing. But the interesting thing is it's up to us to receive and grab what we need. Mm. He'll give you whatever you ask for, I believe. And I don't understand why some people, I have no problem asking God for things if it's something to help life and it's not selfish or personal for me. I have no problem praying and ask God for things. But I grew up like that. My dad was a pastor, and he says, God, as long as you follow Scripture and you don't pray to consume it on your own lust, and you're praying within His will for your life, Jesus says, you ask my Father, He'll give it to you. And so I grew up like that. I just believe now sometimes it takes a long time. I've prayed for stuff. When I was praying for my first wife, I prayed for a whole summer, and God sent me to another university that I didn't like. But I met my wife, and my first wife, who eventually passed away, but she was amazing. 1,100 people came to her funeral. She was the most amazing woman I've ever known in my life. And so, but He answered that prayer. Because I was in college at Oklahoma State, and I had high moral values that I wanted to carry through to college, to wedding, and not all the Oklahoma cowgirls had the same standards I had. So I started praying. I was saying, God, I need a good one.
There's that TV commercial with cowboys looking for cowgirls, on this thing where, it's like it's a dating service. Yeah. And where you have this guy looking for women, and these gorgeous young women come over there from Boca or people like that, and with their nails and all. And then he says, "That's not what I want." And then this girl rides in on a horse. He says, "That's what I
hadn't seen that one.
No, it's a dating service for cowboys.
Okay.
Anyway.
I hadn't seen it.
Oh, yeah, it's very, very good. But anyway, let's get back to how we all started this. So now let's go to the people who have broken this bond. I mean, broken the not the bond, but they've broken the hanger around them, that they can't. They don't care about drugs anymore. They don't care about that. They want to give a good life. We want those people, and we've talked about this before. I'm getting back to legacy. I'm wrapping around this somehow. I'm fumbling around, but so people who have been helped. They really have to show appreciation. And, they can show it to God, but they have to show it to an organization like yours that has to help other people, because that's what's happened. They have to, what they call it, pass it on.
Yeah.
That's what they have to
Pay
do.
it
So
forward,
we have to find those people, pass it forward. We have to find those people who will drop in the bucket $1, $10, $1,000, $100,000, whatever they have. They have to start doing this, Dean. And how are we going to do that?
That's a good question. We've emphasized for 65 years. We've emphasized our micro business enterprise to fund ourselves. But with the box store traffic dropping down, that's affected our thrift stores, and we absolutely have to have donors. We have to become a little bit like all the other nonprofits, and that's all they do is fundraising. We have never done that.
But you're not going to be like the other nonprofits.
No,
anyway.
I'm just saying we have to have a little smidgen of that to supplement our business enterprise.
So before I don't want to run out of time, because I want everyone to know what they're supposed to do here. You can listen to this enjoyable show. You can listen to Dean Webb and all, but let's give you some more information. I'd like you to really go to Faith Farm, not just to deliver, your unwanted goods or to buy more. That's a good thing to do, but let's go to give them a check. And you could give them the check to the cashier. She'll be glad to have it and pass it along. The way that you're going to find them, and the best way, is to actually go to their website, because their website has so many things on it, and it's so easy. It's just called faithfarm.org. Easy, easy, easy. faithfarm.org. So, and if you have any ideas, maybe your organization, you could sponsor Faith Farm. That's another thing to do. People do donate money. A lot of them are helping women in distress. They're helping babies. They're doing a lot of things. But now that we know we have this crisis, why don't you ask your organization, why don't we sponsor this year at least? Whatever they do, they have a big fundraiser. Sponsor you.
That's really interesting. We're partnering with a church up on 441. They came to us and said, we will give you a $5,000 grant if you will use up to at least 10 people in volunteering for your organization.
What?
Because they said,
really?
They said, because we found this, if we get people off their couches and out of their pew seat, and they start working and donating, they start seeing lives changed, we realize they're probably going to give to Faith Farm. But we also know from experience that they're going to give more to us. He said there's a giving spirit of service and money and everything that's all tied together. We don't know. Now, this guy's got 17 churches around the country.
So he knows.
He said if he can get people out of the pews and giving, he broadcast to all his churches all over the country. They have regular song service and they take an offering and everything. Then he comes on video and preaches a 30-minute sermon to all 37 churches.
Whoa, I'm really impressed.
And he started in this garage in Oklahoma City. And
how did he find you?
Well, we went to them. We'd take a bus and take people just on a Sunday night service just to be different and everything. And so they wanted to know about us, so we got it connected. And so our girl that I hired in charge of volunteers, she went to them, and Judy Lynn said, they said they came and met, they looked at our campus on Boynton and says, okay, this is what we would like our people involved in.
And so there are 10 volunteers, and what will you have them doing? Sorting clothes,
I'll tell you, we've pulled three of them, and we've installed phones in our intake office at Boynton. We get over 100 calls a day, and they're usually parents that are crying. Their kids are addicted and they want help, and we have 18 pages of paperwork we have to fill out on what addictions people have had in the past that are applying, and it takes so long to apply and to handle the paperwork that it makes us look like we don't care. They go to our website and they see we're a caring organization, but we can't get back to them. So we've gotten people that are very prayer-minded, spiritual people that will sit and take some of those calls and call those hurting parents back and pray with them, hold their hand, ask what they can do, and explain it. So that's one of the things that we're doing that we have a desperate need for. But we have to hand select those people because they're representing us, and so we select that. They had a contractor in that church, and he came to us and they said, "Do you need any building?" Well, the women's ministry, the the boards in the house were sinking. They were soft. And she said, we need new flooring. Well, the guy came out and looked at it. And he says, good Lord, you need new cabinets too and all this stuff. So he said, let me handle this. So he started ripping out the flooring, put in basic flooring, put in tile, and he contracted for some cabinets. And he fell and hurt his arm. He was from New Jersey. So he had to go back to his construction firm in New Jersey. He was just down here for the season. And this is a church he visited while he was here. So he paid another guy, a contractor. He said, you come in and finish. I'll just send me the bill.
I can't believe this.
You will pay. So
now, this is good stuff, Dean.
Yeah. So this church, they understand that people, if they can get people to giving them cells, serving meals, get them wrapped up, they're not only going to give financially to us, they're going to give back to the church that got them involved in the community.
This is absolutely beautiful. You would have kept this from me if we didn't get
well.
Going. I know.
I always say there are so many things going on. I don't know where to start every day.
Good. That's good.
Just,
I just have to pull it out of you.
Well,
okay, faithfarm.org. Please do go on their website. You'll see so many things. They need vehicles. They need everything. Please, we need to help them make money. Thanks, Dean.
Thank you for having me on. I love talking about Faith Farm.